Hi, this is Edward Funk, podcast 87. Loretta Young confronts a director. One of us has to go. Now, the movie Half Angel got off to a bad start. Loretta explained. Now, my brother-in-law, Norman Foster, first brought the script to me. He said, I think you'd be marvelous in this. I didn't go a step further to think, of course he wanted to direct it. I still had a picture left on a 3-picture commitment to Daryl Zanuck, 20th Century Fox. And so my agent took the script to 20th Century Fox. They were all for it because Mother is a freshman and Come to the Stable, both light fares, had been profitable. The movies under this 3-picture deal. Now, the studio signed Joseph Cotten to co-star and Jules Dassin to direct. Norman never said one word to me about directing it, and so all I would have had to say is put Norman Foster on it, but it never dawned on me. Finally, Norman died. I said to Sally, every time I think about it, I realize now that Norman intended to direct that picture. That's why he brought it to me. But I was so concerned about me, I never even thought of him. She said, oh, I know, Loretta. I cried over that. We needed the money at that time. Now, Jules Dassin had just completed Night in the City, a story about a crooked wrestling promoter that would eventually be considered a minor classic. Loretta was unfamiliar with his work, so she viewed Night in the City. She recalled. I said to Julian Wallstein, the producer, this is heavy drama. Half Angel is a little sex comedy, nothing like this. He said, oh, he's a very clever young man. I said, if you say so, we'll try him. Everyone said, oh, he's a pleasant little fellow. But I did not find him to be. The board game Monopoly was the rage back then. And he kept talking about how terrible it was. He said, it's just a game for capitalists. I wouldn't have it in my house. He teaches kids to be pigs about everything. I said, oh, I can't get too upset over that. Now, this is Loretta continuing. I was to play 2 personalities of the same character in that picture. The conscious part of her was a prude. Whenever she was around Joe Cotton, she was so self-conscious that she couldn't even talk to him. But when she was asleep, she was a tart who would sleepwalk and try to climb the bed with him as quickly as she could. The idea was that when they were married, these 2 personalities would mesh and she'd be the perfect wife. We started out shooting the prudish character, which was fine with me because I'd become so uptight working with Jules Dassin. Everything about him seemed to rub me the wrong way. I began to worry that when we got to the tart part, I wouldn't be able to do it with this director. I needed all the self-assurance I could muster to feel tardy, and by that time, I was feeling mostly insecure. We were 10 days into production, and we were on location in downtown Los Angeles. I think it was like a furniture store. There were all these fans standing around besides the crew and Jules and me. I said, I'll be right. Oh, see, there were all these fans standing around beside the crew, and Jules called to me. I said, yes, I'll be right there. I was still doing my face in front of the mirror, the rich kind of self-indulgent stuff he hated, all the pampering. He called me again, and I said, I'll be right there, Jules. I'm just finishing my makeup. And he said, Loretta, you get yourself over here now. It stopped me cold. Suddenly, I was back on the set of Laugh Clown Laugh. When I was 14 and the director, Herbert Brennan, was yelling at me and I was terrified. Once again, I was fighting back the tears. This time they weren't tears of fear, they were tears of anger. At me mostly, for allowing this director to treat me in this abusive manner, simply to accommodate his own ego. At any rate, all the nasty little insults and insensitivities of the past 10 days boiled over, and I heard myself say to the assistant director, "Please ask Mr. Dasson if he wouldn't mind coming to my dressing room for a moment." And I left the set. When he arrived, I said, "Jules, we can't work together any longer. One of us is going to leave this picture, and I have a hunch it's going to be you, because at this moment in our careers, I sell more tickets than we do. I have a much bigger box office." I'd already called for Julian, the producer, to come down. I told him that it was an emergency. Jules had such a look of disdain on his face that it gave me chills, and then he just left my dressing room without saying anything. Julian arrived in the afternoon, and I explained my. I've seen the tension in this but didn't know quite what to do about it. I spoke to Jules, and he didn't see any problem. I continued my venting. I don't thrive under bullying. I completely dry up. So, Julian, it's your decision. It's Jules or me. I'm going home now. Call me if I'm to report to work tomorrow. The moment I got home, I was sick to my stomach. Frankly, I thought they might call and say, "Well, we're getting Joan Crawford or anybody else to do the part." Because they could have. And it would have been a very difficult thing for me to swallow because I'd never walked off a set before. But now I stopped production at 3 in the afternoon. Now here's a little note here. Loretta said she never walked off a set, but she had threatened a number of times. China with Alan Ladd, The Stranger with Orson Welles, The Farmer's Daughter with Joseph Cotton, all in an attempt, her threat to walk off, all in an attempt to coerce directors or producer to do things her way. She would do it one more time during her last film. It was called It Happened Every Thursday. Now, back to Loretta's voice. Julian called about 7:30 that night, and all he said was, "Well, Loretta, would Richard Sale be acceptable to you as a director?" I said, "Yes, he would." Julian said, "Fine. Be ready at 9 tomorrow morning." I understand that a lot of actors thrive under a critical director. It makes them mad and they work better. I don't. I don't fight well. There's not that much anger in me that I can use it in my work in order to get rid of it. What talent I have is best wooed out of me. Page turn here. There we go. Some actors don't seem to need much direction, but I do. Gentle but firm direction. After every scene, my eyes fly to the director for his approval. But it's direction, not coaching that I need. There's a difference. When someone tells me how to do something, that drives me crazy. I say, "Well, you do it then. It will only be secondhand best if I do it the way you want me." Now, before we leave this podcast, I have a few personal comments about Jules Dasson. He directed one of my favorite films, 1948 Naked City, which I think was kind of a landmark breaking through film, and that was all, in this case, New York City. Okay. And also, Jules was also in the 1955 French film Graffiti. He appeared in it, but he directed it as well. The latter is a unique movie in which they play out a jewelry store heist in real time with no accompanying dialogue. And if you're curious about what Jules Dasson looks like, he plays one of the thieves. So in podcast 88, Loretta recalls her true memories of Marilyn Monroe. So I hope that entices your curiosity. See you then.